talking about ASUU. For those who are joining us, because we have those who have joined from 27 countries, we've also received reports that over 1.2 million have already joined on various platforms. And we won't know the full number until Wednesday when they file their reports. I thank the Kenyan Association of Teachers who are on strike, who have joined. The union in Ghana that has followed the trend in Nigeria closely. Through Nigeria, they established their own Ghana fund, the equivalent of TETFUND. And they cite Nigeria, they've joined. I thank the Ghana Academy of Letters who have joined. And we have to thank our colleagues in South Africa, whose students are also on strike, who have joined. This is going to be heavily watched because what they talk about in Nigeria, they are also talking about it in other places, comparing notes. The president of ASUU said he's dealing with internet issues, so it's missing from the cast, and I hope he's able to correct it. He just sent me a WhatsApp message. I previously saw him, and then he disappeared. So, to our colleagues, what is ASUU? What is ASUU? Let me present it. And ASUU has to forgive me if I misrepresent them. Professor Piwuna, I am presenting what I know about ASUU briefly because we have colleagues who have joined from Kenya. Their union joined. They joined from Ghana. They joined from South Africa. And at 5 p.m. your time, when we started this program, we already have 1.2 million who are watching this program. Just because the problem in Nigeria are reproduced in many of these other countries. To those who are from other countries, ASUU means the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Represented technical people, please unmute everyone except the panelists. It's a prominent union and is representing staff in public universities. Some people describe it as a labor organization. As to its history, founded in 1978, originally Nigerian Association of University Teachers, which was formed in 1965. In 1965, NAUT, sorry for the interruption, this is a live program. Ridwan, can you unmute people? Because I can hear children's voices, please. This is recorded. When they established NAUT in 65, it was to talk about welfare, professional interest of university lecturers, autonomy for universities, and better funding. In 1978, when NAUT became ASUU, they came up with 4 fundamental objectives: promote quality education and national development. Let me reemphasize the issue of that national development, because ASUU is relating quality education to issues of national transformation as a development project. That has to be underscored because in South Africa after apartheid, rules must fall. The teachers were also talking about the same thing, that higher education and overall state development must be connected. Because you can have a union that is not talking about the national development of the state. Second, they wanted autonomy and they wanted academic freedom. Colleagues in Ghana also said the same. Fighting at the level of the president not to even elect university vice chancellors for them. Kenya is still struggling with that because it's the office of the president that appoints the vice chancellor for them. They don't even take selections from the universities. Applicants apply to the Ministry of Education and the ministry chooses the vice chancellor. So they're fighting over that. And I'm mentioning that because they have joined us. Then they said they need adequate funding for research and infrastructure. And they want to improve working conditions. To members of the public, they tend to see only one objective of ASUU. And we have to explain why. The public thinks that ASUU is just about working conditions and not about other things. So, ASUU has engaged in major strikes, 1988. The Babangida military regime banned the association because of that. 1992, strike, agreement on salary. 1994, grants, strike and agreement on salary. There is a major development which members of the public are not aware. When the Obasanjo regime was inaugurated in 1999, he came up with the idea that battling ASUU is a struggle for the government. Why can't they create private universities? As these private universities grow in number and influence, the impact of ASUU will decline. Himself founded Bell University. Babcock was registered at the time of that argument, and other universities followed. So that today, we have more private universities than public. It's only in South Africa that we have one private university. In Ghana, Kenya, private universities have mushroomed. And last July, I visited many of those private universities. So, has Obasanjo's argument succeeded? No. Because the preference still remains in large part for public universities. And if you had the number of students in public universities combined, they may not be up to the number of the University of Lagos. Some of them have 2,000 students. So that strategy has collapsed. That private universities is to undermine public universities. The president has disappeared again. And then they came up with another argument. Why don't you sell the public universities? They even spoke about it at the highest quarter. That also collapsed. So we're here. The two arguments to deal with these issues have collapsed, selling them off to rich people and using the private universities to undermine them. So in 2009, after the Obasanjo regime, there was a major agreement to revitalize universities, change salary structures, pay and allowances. But the state government, the federal government reneged on many of these promises for years. And then the 2020 remarkable strike of 9 months over the implementations of agreements and opposition to the integrated payroll and personal information. 2022 strike for 8 months, and 2025 a warning strike for 2 weeks. So what are they looking for? Implement the 2009 agreement. The current minister said there was no such agreement. Establish transparency and accountability solution as an alternative to IPPIS. Improve grants, respect autonomy, and make the lives of university lecturers comfortable. As this conversation unfolds, we'll talk about the criticisms of ASUU and how it has established a big legacy. To speak to these various issues and various ones, we are privileged to have the ASUU president with us. Have met him, Christopher Piwuna. I was very happy when he became a president. I'm an alumnus of his university, University of Jos. He's a psychiatrist and academic leader. I like his calmness. And if there's anything that has attracted me to him, it is his calmness. He's made contributions to his own profession and is leading the battle now. My good friend, Professor Francis Edward, I invited him to a conference I convened on higher education, and his views on ASUU are remarkably profound and different. He's a pride of the country, versatile scholar, former president of the National Academy of Letters. He served as the branch secretary of ASUU, and he was also the editor at some point of the Scholar ASUU publication. Welcome, sir. Ms. Grace Edema is an award-winning journalist, a graduate of sociology from Lagos State University. He covers education for Punch newspapers, where he writes every week about issues of education. She interviews professors and she follows the conversation. Comrade Ajaero needs no introduction. He's a committed activist, human rights, labor advocacy. He was arrested and detained by the Abacha military regime. He served as the General Secretary of the National Union of Electricity Employees. And today, he is the President of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Professor Adewale Taylor is an economist, extremely well-traveled and respected, and it still teaches economics in leading Nigerian universities. To his credit, he has supervised over 30 PhD students, and all of them in well-paid occupations. He also serves as a consultant. Every Monday, he has a column that it contributes to. Welcome. Welcome. I am praying that nothing is going to happen to the internet of the president of ASUU, whom I will invite to open this conversation. Welcome, Professor Piwuna.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for tuning in. Like Prof said, I've had challenges. I've tried all forms of network to get here, but I hope it won't be interrupted. I was elected president of ASUU about 5 months ago, and for the past 4 months, 4 or 5 months, we've been trying to address some of the issues Professor Falola has raised, range from funding public education, particularly university education in Nigeria, issues about our conditions of service, Nigerian universities, that is closely tied to our inability to attract scholars of repute. I was just reading, even though I know why some of it, the bio of Professor Ibokare that was just read, who visits in several universities across the world. That is the kind of person you call a scholar. And Nigerian universities would want to have scholars like that visit us. But because of our conditions of service, we can not attract people of repute, scholars of repute, intellectuals to come over to Nigerian universities to offer their ideas, to teach, to enlarge research in such institutions. I mean, just think about it. I'm seated here today at a state university in a state called Taraba State, Nigeria. This university has over 25 students with about 1,000 academic staff, and there is no network, internet connectivity that is stable in this university. I've moved around quite a number of places to get to this spot. So how do you attract scholarship in an institution in a situation like this? We are also talking about autonomy and academic freedom. I mean, you ask yourself, why is the government afraid of allowing us to operate in freedom? Why are they afraid of our autonomy? You know, to the extent that for 15, 16 years, we're still trying to negotiate our freedom as intellectuals with the Nigerian state. Why is it that for 15, 16 years, we still feel our autonomy is threatened? So, gentlemen, these are the issues that we are fighting. I just want to make another point. In Professor Falola's introduction, he talked about the 2009 agreement and connected it to Obasanjo. Obasanjo was the 1999 2001 agreement. The 2009 agreement was with the late President Umaru Yar'Adua. And from our leaders who were there in 2007, who started the struggle for the 2009 agreement, Yar'Adua appears to be one of the few Nigerian leaders that thought academics needed to be listened to in this country. In fact, we are aware that to fashion out the 2009 agreement that has outlived close to 5 presidents of Nigeria and almost 20 ministers. There are 5 presidents and 20 ministers are unable to renegotiate this agreement. Yar'Adua was able to do it because he had respect for intellectuals. In fact, Yar'Adua sought for our leaders at the time to discuss these issues. And that is what we're trying to get this government to negotiate. We have embarked on several strikes to get government to discuss this agreement with us, to renegotiate this agreement with us. And we're not doing it just for ourselves. Renegotiating this agreement is an investment in the future of this country. Renegotiating this agreement is to assure the youth of Nigeria that there is a future for them in tertiary education. Renegotiating this agreement for us is like preparing this country for a future that we can all live in peace and prosperity, in a country that would see innovations and creations and ideas that can transform this country. The Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities we have never looked at education as a sprint. We know that it is a marathon. We are committed to it, and we will continue to hold government accountable for as long as they do not accept that education is a priority. There is a lot of lip service when it comes to education in Nigeria. And so we will continue to challenge them. We will continue to push them. We have our problems, internal contradictions, if you want to say, as members of the union. But on the whole, we are united that this is a battle, this is a struggle that we need to sacrifice and commit ourselves to.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The president of Nigerian Labour Congress, please make your opening remarks.
Well, thank you very much. I think the ASUU president has aptly captured the situation. As we progress, we'll look at various issues, including whether strikes are enough, all these years, and to equally reassess whether we have been able to achieve the autonomy, which was part of the objectives which we started with. We're equally going to look at the issue of private universities and the pros and cons, and why ASUU has not unionized private universities up to this moment. If government created it as a way of, because if you watch the ASUU creation, government fought NLC and others to classify us as a senior staff that should not affiliate to NLC, but we defeated that. So if they have equally created the private universities as a way of undermining the ASUU, why have we not unionized them? What efforts have been made towards that direction? We have to look at that objectively, so that we can also look at the solidarity within the university unions. There are about 5 university unions in existence as of today, which we are trying to work together with ASUU, because by the time you go there, you get 1 naira. The other, say, give us 1 naira. The other one will say, give us 1 naira. What can we do, to create a synergy by these unions? Because it's important that we work together and to find out what we should do differently There has been ASUU presidents, there has been NLC presidents, and we need to do certain things differently, so that we can get the required results. And on and on and on. The history, Prof, you traced about ASUU. It has been off and on. It has been tough. And I don't pity the current president of ASUU. But he's talking of 5 months as ASUU president. And within that 5 months, I think he knows how many months or weeks that have been he has been at the barricade. And from his background, which we traced, it appears he's prepared for this job. So I think beyond autonomy, and then if you look at the issue of autonomy, is Nigerian state seeing things the way we are seeing? Are we looking at university education, or can we widen it to look at education in the country? The problem of education is emphasis on university education. Is government doing anything on primary and secondary education? If you don't get it right, the primary and secondary education, can it be excellent or super at the tertiary education level? This is going to be very interesting, and I think that we need to, like we have decided in the NLC, to look at various other options, to put an end to this incessant harassment of ASUU, and then I don't see why people should have an agreement since 2009, an agreement that enjoyed joint authorship, where people didn't sign under gunpoint, and they will not be honorable enough to implement the agreement. And they're even talking of renegotiation, and they are not equally willing, to have a second look at what was signed on. I'm not here to say what the NLC is doing or what they are planning to do, but I think the time is now to see whether we can solve this problem, not just ASUU problem, but the problem of education in Nigeria, which affects our children, which affects everybody. And the issue of poor wage is at the center of it. And I must be frank with you, because university lecturers don't operate differently. Most of the airlines now, assuming you are traveling from one point to the other, will take off somebody's salary for a month for one, not even a return ticket. So we need to look at all of them holistically beyond the issue of even autonomy. This conversation, to me, is an interesting conversation. Is at the heart of our very existence, and I think we need to take it seriously, and then call on policy makers in this country. As we progress, the NLC and us agreed on 4 weeks extension on the ultimatum given. And when we listen to the president of ASUU next time, we'll find out how far, because I was hearing of 20 billion or 50 billion release, whether that has addressed issues as our 4 weeks, expire. So thank you very much, God bless you.
Thank you. And you could see the internet of Professor Piwuna just created problems.
Yeah.
How can you have a modern university without functioning infrastructure? We are going to return to that. Our economist, Dr. Taylor, it's your turn to make your opening remarks.
Thank you very much, the coordinator. Let me congratulate the president of ASUU, because since he assumed office, we have not actually talked. And I know that we met last over a year ago in Kaduna, when I went to present a paper for the association, for the union. Well, the task before ASUU is very, very great, in the sense that the public actually do not sometimes see what ASUU is doing for the Nigerian nation, as it were. And that's why we say, oh, these ASUU people again are on strike. What are they looking for? Give them money and let them go. It's as if it's all about money for ASUU. When ASUU is also talking about the conditions, not only in the universities, but also education generally. You know, just as the NLC president said, ASUU sometimes go beyond the university, but public don't see that way. And sometimes I feel that why don't they concentrate just on the membership? Because the members are also grumbling about salary being too small, and ASUU is talking about a condition can be one side if they are not receiving a salary that can take them home. Because I remember one time we say my take-home pay cannot take me home. If the salary cannot take them home, how do they do research for me? Because you find that in the university system, where I was for many years, because I know I worked for about 41 years in there. You use your money to do research. Government does not care much about research, but ASUU is more concerned about what goes on in the larger society than in that side. So I don't know whether ASUU is also trying to streamline the efforts toward that. Like I always tell people that my whole years in the university, I sponsored myself to most of the conferences I went to, until when I grew up and people started sponsoring me. Now say, come and give us paper. That's when they started sponsoring me. The university will have no money to sponsor. They don't even understand what research is all about and all that. And I think these are the issues that ASUU should sometimes address, so that people will know what the membership are actually suffering. But one important thing that I want to know, when this minister started talking about the present, I won't call it crisis, right? He said the agreement has been signed. I want to know how we have been able to resolve that. Because if ASUU is talking of 2009 agreement, and the minister is saying that no agreement has ever been signed, that creates a kind of problem for the public, because I'm now in the public and we are discussing all this thing. I heard on the television one time when somebody said, how can a whole ASUU not sign agreement and be saying that they have agreement? That's absurd. So those are some of the things that ASUU might need to clear. And if that is true, of course, I know that ASUU will have also learned its lesson that you don't just take government for what they are, because they collect paper and go and say they are going to sign, they will not sign. Somebody will now come and use it against that, yes, you gave them on trust, but they will not tell you that nothing was signed. So I'm sure that the president will be able to clear that area of a signing agreement, whether that 2009 agreement was actually signed. And those ones that came after, because I know there were some other agreements thereafter, whether they were actually signed. And then which aspect is still outstanding? Or is it everything that was agreed upon 2009 that have not been touched or fulfilled up to now? So those are issues that maybe the president will want to talk about as we go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In the interest of full disclosure, representatives of 3 governments have joined this. What we normally do is that we establish alternative lines for them.
Okay.
And I need to disclose that to all the panelists. Next is our good friend from Punch, Grace Edema. Thank you.
So,
we can hear you.
Okay, good. ASUU FG crisis, it's something that even as a media person, as a journalist, whenever the issues come up, you actually know everything, all the demands, all the unmet demands offhand, while trying to do a background to your story. You already know, even if you don't know everything, all the new ones, at least you know the 2009 agreement. This 2009 agreement is something that over time, it kept on coming up. It had never been implemented. Also, year in, year out, new committees are usually established to renegotiate this agreement. And you begin to wonder that what is this government actually up to? In a country whereby we all know the importance of education, especially the higher education, in research and development, in training of the next generation, to make the country to be competitive globally. And then they kept on renegotiating without coming to a conclusion for years, that's like 16 years now. Then you also look at the other issues. There was a time IPs was a major problem. And one thing the media has always done for the union, for ASUU, is that we always ensure that every time there is a crisis, a lot of newspapers, you will see the story of ASUU on the front page. And whenever you see a story on front page, that means it's quite a strong, heavy story to draw the attention of the government and stakeholders to react promptly when stories are especially placed on the front page, is to create that urgency. But despite that fact, you see that our government will maneuver one way or the other. They could just pay something, a paltry amount, then ASUU will call off, students, parents. You see, okay, another issue, I was talking about the renegotiation, then the IPs. IPs was also a major problem. It took a long time before they could resolve it. Lecturers were complaining, cuts in their salaries. They brought in UTAS. That UTAS one with, I think that was Professor Biodun Ogunyemi's time. It was also a major crisis. Then they went to her, there was always issue with their end allowances, end academic allowance, then funding, revitalization funding bills and all that. So these are issues that as media, you begin to expect, not, psychologically, you begin to expect that there will be problems this year. ASUU is going to, federal government is going to have issues with ASUU. ASUU and federal government will still be at loggerheads. Then suddenly you hear warning strike, you hear ASUU sending either press releases or calling for press conferences. And when we continue to do this, there would not be progress in that sector, even in the country. But I always look at, is it that there is no way the government can actually bend the rules or, create that bridge that gap, create that path whereby they can at least just meet these demands so that students wouldn't have delayed academic dreams, somebody that wants to finish up 4 years and is going to 6 years, even parents, financially, emotionally, it affects them, whereby you've planned that within this so time, this is the money I'm going to spend for this child's school fees. And this child is sent home, idling around for 4 months, 5 months. Even the lecturers themselves, for me, it's quite devaluing for a worker to have to, fight your employer for what rightfully belongs to you. So I have to, create crises. I've joined ASUU in several protests. We dance with them, we sing along, we video them. And then you speak with them, and a lot of them share their, their grievances. But still, we still come back after some months. We still come back to the same issue. And then the media, as a media person, you begin to look at it, that what is actually the problem? Is it that the government enjoys this crisis, this front and back, and sometimes they also deny some of these demands. Sometimes they also try to twerk it, try to twist the old narratives. And as a media person, you begin to see that the media is committed to that advocacy. Yes, I'll give it to the media. They are both print and broadcast. They are very committed to ASUU issues, ASUU crisis. Even the TV stations, you will see them, they quickly bring it up. And why? it is just to call the attention of the government. We even go as far as talking to other stakeholders. So, okay, maybe you can suggest to this government what to do. Maybe they don't really know how to handle ASUU or what to do. We go as far as talking to international scholars to proffer solutions, to share how these things are done in their own country. But still,
Well, she now has internet issues. You have internet issues. Did you accidentally press a button?
okay. What about now?
You're back.
Okay,
You're
so
fine.
then we now begin to look at it that what can we actually do to bring a solution, even if it is not permanent. You know, they use that word alleviates poverty. You know, there was a time poverty alleviation. So is there something we can actually do to at least, from the media perspective, I said earlier on that we are trying our best. We go as far as talking to international scholars to proffer solutions, to give suggestions to what our government can do and what ASUU can also do more. But the government is not forthcoming. So I always look at any gathering like this, that is there a way we can ensure that the government is able to pick up whatever we are going to discuss and say. So at least let's find a solution to this. Education is very, very important. It's very important. Professor Egbukaris, maybe 2 years ago, I was trying to do a story and he told me I better pass my neighbor generator in his office in UI because of electricity. He told me that so many other, and I called, even Professor Shodeke told me in his own university, there is no electricity. I don't know if they have it now. In ASUU, OOU, that time, when I was 2 years thereabouts ago, they said they don't have electricity. And we want to be the best. We want to compete with other nations. We want to produce globally competitive graduates. And no. So I think we should try as much as possible to let this conversation get to the government. Let them find a solution. Attend to ASUU issues. We cannot keep coming up with the same issue every now and then, as if we are enjoying it. Is it that they're enjoying the stories on cover pages? Is it that they're enjoying the fact that ASUU is always bringing them up to the media, to the fore? I don't really understand, because if somebody keeps complaining about you every time, you want to really stop that fight or crisis. So I want to see how we can ensure that this conversation is able to get to the right table for them to at least attend to ASUU demands so that they wouldn't go on another strike again and, you know, probably find at least like a 80% solution to the challenges and to their demands. Thank you.
Thank you. Opening remark from Professor Egbare.
Yeah, thank you, Professor.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Falola, and thank you, Comrade President. I think I'm just meeting you online for the first time, and I want to say that I want to shift the focus a bit from right or wrong. In management, repeated failure is evidence of a systems problem. And if you look at what has been going on from dictatorship to democratic dispensation, from one government to the other, the same problem have been carried on from year to year, from epoch to epoch, from milieu to milieu. It must mean that there's something really fundamental that we have not touched. And I think what we then need to do is to move away from strategic rigidity and then begin to look at how we develop conversations in order to be able to solve the problems. The other issue I want to say is that if it is really about Nigerians, if it's really about the nation, then conversation cannot be such a problem. Then it must mean that it is much more than solving the problem, a national problem. So if we refocus the issues of the university system, the tertiary education system, education generally on Nigerians, then I think it should not be difficult for ASUU, other unions, and the government of the federation to come to an accommodation. A philosopher once said that it is only among a collective of imbeciles or the dead in the grave that there can be unanimity. So the fact that there is a problem between a union and government is not the issue. It is the inability to have conversation and to also agree on what decisions we are taking that is actually at the root of this of the issues that we're having. So something is wrong somewhere, and we must get to the root of the issue. I have some ideas what I think the issues are, but I will reserve that for later. But I want to also say that maybe we are dealing with fundamental issues that have to do with inherited animosities, which is obscuring clarity. And then, of course, maybe we are also dealing with the problem of systems thinking. It's a deficit in systems thinking in which it is impossible for people to see the cause and effects, the cause and benefits of actions and reactions. I want to just say, give an example. An action taken in one point in government is likely to affect education either negatively or positively. But when government is not working as a unity, as a consistency, we may end up finding a lot of room for challenges that are coming in terms of crisis and so on. So one of the problems I've seen is that there is a lot of ideological challenges between government and ASUU. And this has come as a result of a lack of philosophical clarity. You have a union that is looking at development and education as an instrument of development. You have a government that is looking at the role of unions from a different perspective. But at the end of the day, who suffers is the Nigerian people. So there must be ideological convergence. But where the philosophy of a nation does not derive from its national vision, it is impossible to have a conversation. Now, let me just put it there. When a minister says that there was no agreement, what is the meaning of that, actually? What does it say? So we have to deal with a number of issues. One is the problem of leadership at the level of education generally. Whether you are talking at the level of the ministry, you are talking about the level of the institutions themselves, we have to be careful and to understand exactly what are the qualifications of leadership. Because all of these things we are dealing with, persistent crisis and so on, is a throw-up of more fundamental problems. The final thing I want to say is this. Yes, there is a funding problem. That is clear. But it is not that there is a funding problem that is the issue. It's why is there a funding problem? I personally believe that there is enough funding in the system to be able to take care of the issues in the education system. But we have to address the problem of the model of higher education, which is resource intensive. And it is based on the competitive models of the Western education system, where there is a lot of redundancy and transfer of inefficiencies. Who is going to pay for that? Those are some of the, and that is where I think also that ASUU will now have to move beyond the question of agitation to address contradictions and inconsistencies with the system and offer to the public. I'm not even talking about government, because sometimes the government pretends to be asleep and it's impossible to wake up somebody who is pretending to be asleep. So for us now to go into it, research-intensive, solution-based approaches that will educate the Nigerian public. Let me give you one just simple example of the issue of money. The amount of money that the government spends on education tourism is enough to fund the first generation universities. The amount of money also that we ourselves can recover from the kinds of biddings and so on of TETFUND, the kind of projects that are executed, the over-invoicing, is enough also to deal with some fundamental problems. So just to close this remark, we now need to come together as stakeholders, as a collective. Government must not see itself as an entity different from the people of Nigeria or different from ASUU. But if we come together and join hands and say, look, we want to solve this problem, I think it is quite possible for us to have a better system, to have a more competitive system, and then to have enough resources to run the university system. And then strikes will disappear and we will all be happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We finished the first phase of this conversation. We now want to move to the second phase, which is around the members of the panel throwing questions to the president of ASUU. And I also want the members of the panel to disagree with themselves. In other words, some kind of offering alternative approaches. The last panelist has said, look, it's about strategic rethinking the overall ideology of the nation. So any members of the panel can throw questions, and I can also throw my questions. This is the moment we pray that the internet at Nasarawa State University works, because the president of ASUU may have to talk for 1 hour non-stop. Thank you. Any member of the panel, please pose your questions to him. Members of the audience, I've seen some of you eager to talk. It's not your turn yet. We normally come to your turn to allow the members of the panel to rest and for you to join us. It's not your turn, please. Questions for ASUU president from any
Okay, can I start, sir?
Please, anyone, just start.
Okay, thank you very much. I think there's need for some clarification on freedom, for example. Is it the freedom to teach we are talking about? The freedom to do research? The freedom to appoint vice chancellors and maybe other officers of the university? There's need for clarification on those freedoms so that we know which one has been achieved, which one are still outstanding, or whether none has been achieved. I think the president will need to make some clarification on that freedom that the ASUU is talking about, which of course is the number 2 on the objective.
President of ASUU, what is freedom? What do you mean by freedom?
Well, thank you very much. I would have thought that freedom is the easiest thing to conceptualize, to appreciate. But when it comes to ASUU, if it is ASUU that is talking about freedom, I understand why Professor Teller would want us to, clarify what freedom means, because when ASUU talks about freedom, I guess it means different things to different people. During the military era, particularly the Babangida Abacha era, the issue of freedom was very important. It became very intense because the military dictatorship at that time felt that the universities were their main opposition. They were the ones that were challenging the authority of the military government. They were the ones that were calling the government illegitimate because it was not democratic. And so the curtailing of the freedom of academics became very intense at the time. In fact, to curtail that freedom, the military felt that denying the universities of funds, very serious funds that were needed at the time, was a way of curtailing that freedom. And so it's closely tied to our autonomy, because if you say you are free and you're autonomous, then go ahead and do all these things that you want to do. And so funding, all these things are tied together. But for us, academic freedom is our freedom to carry out our research, to find the truth, to disseminate the truth, to do all that one needs to do as an intellectual in a university setting without let or hindrance. And that has come under attack during the military government, and we're seeing it in a different way under the political or democratic dispensation. In fact, our freedom now is, it has taken a different hue altogether, because while our leaders claim that they were democratically elected to lead, they deny the basic fundamentals of democracy that our institutions, including our universities, are free to carry out the research that they need to do, to do things that are innovative, that our lecturers or academic staff cannot look at our job or their jobs as something they are doing for public good, because those that lead us now think that education should be commodified. It is not an investment in the future. It is something that, if it is not bringing in profit, everybody is taxed now. The common phrase is that nothing is free anymore. And so if universities, public universities, are not generating funds for government, then we are not useful. We do not fit into their ideology, which is capitalist, in nature. So, Professor Teller, academic freedom to us is our capacity to carry out our research, to do our jobs, without any intimidation or harassment. And I believe that we all know that there are various forms of harassment and intimidation. Granted, I've not been to jail like Comrade Ajero and others who have gone to jail. But there are threats everywhere. You see it, you feel it, you are told about it. So this kind of intimidation, keeps, rearing its head. And it is all to curtail the freedom that we feel we need in the system.
Thank you. There's a question from an official from Kenya. So, and the way the question, I'm reading it from my WhatsApp, that university lecturers in many African countries are the most selfish. They don't think about market women. They don't think about farmers. They only think about themselves. And second, they never consider how the nation generates revenue. Do they want Nigeria or Kenya to borrow money, not spending that money on development, but sharing it among them? That is a major, major challenge. In addition to the president of ASUU, members of the panel can also speak to that.
Well,
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Let me just say a word on that question. Clearly, the person doesn't seem to understand the importance of the market woman and the role they play, and the farmer. Without the working class or even the liberal class in this context, those in the academia being empowered, this farm produce, what the market woman is selling, nobody will buy it. Because I'm saying this clearly, because if you look at what happens, he depends on, especially those of us in the wage economy. If you go to the market, every time salaries are paid, That is the time traders, that is the time, farmers rejoice, because that means that their products will be bought. And then if that person doesn't equally seem to understand the issue of development from the context of human development, from the point of developing the mind, then he's looking at development strictly under maybe infrastructure, maybe a construction of road that spoils or whatever. So it is neither here or there. It is not this or this. You can't talk of infrastructural development and look at abandon human development, abandon maybe the wage system that economy operates in. I wouldn't know how since he was talking about being selfish about university teachers, but I'm sure that every worker, especially in organized sector, demands what will keep him to the end of the month, what will even help him to pay the children's school fees, what could help him to attend to his medical needs. That is clear. That does not amount to selfishness. I want to stop here since he's talking of.
But please let me
Yes.
question the president of NLC.
Go ahead, sir.
There is an argument, and former Vice Chancellor Aluko propounded it, that instead of asking for salary, is it not possible for them to ask for ways to make their lives more comfortable? Like, and Aluko is making that suggestion from the US experience. If you work in an Ivy League, for instance, which is very expensive, when my daughter went to Harvard, I had to cough 54,000 US dollars. And that argument is, you are a professor there, don't pay, your children can attend for free. That's not salary. If you work in some universities, they will provide you with university housing. In other words, that there could be a package of comfort that is not called salary. How will you react to that?
Yeah, Prof, thank you very much. Professor Luko is a highly respected professor of economics. And this was why Abacha appointed him.
No, that's his father. That's the father. I'm talking about the son.
Okay. But even the father was appointed as the chairman of the Economic Intelligence Committee, to make sure that, he under Abacha to see whether he can retweet our economy. But I don't want to believe, because some of you are professors, that it is a call for us to return back to barter, barter trade, barter services, instead of giving me money, you do this in exchange of this. I don't want to believe that. Now, the services, let me tell you how we fell to this, even in Nigeria, by accepting 70,000 naira minimum wage, which is now haunting us. It's because of this argument that the more you increase the quantum of the naira or the wage received by the worker, the inflation continues to go high. We fell for it and said that even no country in the world pays 70,000 of its currency as minimum wage, that this would destroy our economy. And we thought that we were behaving like patriots to say, let us reduce inflation. This issue of floating the naira, this issue of don't increase a pump price of petroleum products, again, don't do this, these are issues that will check inflation so that when you collect, even if it's 5,000 or 10,000, it will make sense. And the very moment you do that and we succumb to that, the next 1 month, things went haywire. You don't agree to that on a system you don't have control over. You don't do that. The economic policy that's been implemented is not under your control. If we agree that, the workers, okay, our this thing should be constant, our wage should be constant, then you check inflation at this rate. this value of the currency at this rate, whatever. If we agree on it today, will the people in government agree to that? Tomorrow they do another thing and you'll be at a disadvantage. I don't think that, that's the best for us in a system. We don't have control over other indices, other parameters, and what they say tomorrow and what they do. Now we are talking of even the CNG buses providing accommodation for workers, housing for workers, providing transportation, providing food stuff. They say, okay, they're going to bring rice that will cost at least 40,000. To reduce the cost. And that it's going to take them 90 days to mass produce rice, from some farms in the country. None of these things happen. And we are there for it. So I don't think that policy will work, sir.
Okay. Please.
Can
Professor Bakari, yes, please go ahead.
Yes, actually the contribution from Kenya, I want to understand it differently. And that is that the average person does not see the link between intellectual production and the national productivity. The link is there's a perceptual problem, and at the foundation of the issues we are having with government is this inability for us to draw that link. I am not saying that there's no link. I'm saying that people cannot see that link, and then we need to address that issue of that link. So I think that's the way I understand it. Not necessarily that the individual those things that most of the economies of Africa are difficult to classify. These are informal market-based economies that you can neither call it an agrarian, an industrial, a knowledge economy. Knowledge products are easy to appreciate in a knowledge economy where you can see and draw your links, but it's not the same thing. So, and we need to understand that so that when we are communicating, we know exactly how to pass our message across. What we have basically now are universities that are seen as glorified high schools. In other words, we see them as warehouse for youth training and youth indoctrination. So we need to redefine them in a better way. But if you permit me, coordinator, I want to ask the president of ASUU, how would you explain, we're talking about freedoms and autonomy, how would you explain the paradox in the accreditation system that returns very beautiful outcomes in terms of, if you look at accreditation results, which are accreditations are done by us as academics, the outcomes are always that things are moving well, relatively speaking, the results. But when you look at what is generated by the rhetoric from the unions, is showing the opposite. That's one. Second, we have senates. At the point when we were complaining about funding, the problems of funding, why is it that universities were multiplying programs and workload at a geometric proportion? At the time when it was difficult, we cannot even get, so what is the problem? Is it a problem of mentality, or is it actually that as academics, we have abdicated our responsibility within Senate? What's going on?
Thank you, because there is a similar question. It's posed in a very provocative manner, because it starts by saying ASUU is committing fraud. That on the one hand, its members collect brown envelopes for accreditation. The reports are very glowing. And on the other hand, they are saying that the universities are not working well. And he said this is a case of fraud. That ASUU members are the ones who are saying the universities are running well on a Monday, and on Tuesday they will say the universities are not running well. President of ASUU, you have to respond to this big challenge. It's the second challenge that has been thrown at you. I spared you from answering the question from Kenya, but this one you cannot escape. Is ASUU members committing fraud?
That's a difficult question to answer.
That's why they're asking you.
But starting from the question from Kenya, really, Professor Ebokari and the NLC president Comrade Ajero has tried to answer that question, and their perspectives, I really do appreciate it. But there's another angle to it. Why the common or the ordinary person who is not a member of the union, or even students, my God, this light is going, do not appreciate what ASUU is doing, you know, and it's so easy to see it from, especially the students' perspective. Our society has been so debased and corrupted, and hope no longer exists in our society. Despair is everywhere. So a student wants to quickly graduate from the university so as to go to fend for himself or herself. And so when you embark on a strike to improve the system, it doesn't make sense to him or her. It's even more annoying for his parent, who is paying for his accommodation, paying for his transport to school every day, and paying virtually everything outside the charges that they have already paid to the institutions. They feel every time you embark on a strike action, you are, I'm sure you can see what is happening to the light in this place.
I can see now.
So
it's
and
getting off.
yeah, and it's all part of the university. It's right inside the university. That's not to say lights shouldn't go off, but finally it is off.
Keep going. We can see you, and
So I think
it's illustrative of what we are discussing.
exactly,
No problem. No problem.
exactly.
I hope you didn't
Somebody has to
manufacture the
flash a torch
crisis.
on my face now.
President, I
to
hope you
help
didn't
see me.
manufacture this crisis.
No, we can see here get his voice.
No,
Thank
I'm
you
just
very much.
joking. I'm just joking. I said, I hope you did not manufacture this crisis to make your point.
And just to tie what is happening now to what government has done, before our members elected us to serve them, this current government had given contract for solarization of 18 universities in Nigeria. They announced it, as they usually do, after every Federal Executive Council meeting. It's about 4 months or 5 since that contract was awarded. The year is ending in less than 2 months. I can assure you that there is nothing on the ground anywhere in these 18 universities to show that what government has awarded is working, or that they are serious about the award. 18 universities, that can be confirmed. That aside, a lot of parents are discouraged when there is a strike action, and so they cannot connect the struggle that is in public interest when they are paying so much, spending so much on their children, and the children are not graduating. The children are in despair, they are hopeless, and they feel, how long are we going to be kept down? And so they are also not able to appreciate what the union is doing. And so for the person in Kenya, I think you can understand it from these 3 perspectives. Then on the issue of accreditation that Professor Bokari raised, and someone said ASUU is committing fraud. ASUU is not committing fraud. And I will explain. In 2015, 2016, there was an executive secretary of the National Universities Commission. His name is Professor Adamu Rashid. When he became NUC executive secretary, he approached ASUU and said, ASUU, this thing that Professor Bokari is saying is true. So come, send to me your committed members to go out on accreditation so that we can know the true situation in these universities. You know what? At the end of that accreditation exercise, ASUU refunded to the coffers of NUC over 7 million naira as bribes given to our members to falsify accreditation records. I have gone on an exercise sent by the federal government. I was paid about 1.1 or something million naira for that exercise, legitimately by government, and I was given a bribe of 2.3 billion naira. I have returned the money. Yes, I returned the money. I wrote the Federal Ministry of Education when Alhaji Adamu was minister. I refunded the money and told them that they had paid me enough to carry out that exercise, and that these institutions that gave me this money truly do not need the money government was sending to them if they have enough to bribe us. I have gone for accreditation exercise as recent, and I'm just one of many, Professor Bokari, that are doing this. In fact, there are many reports of it. Professor Tony Falola is here. There is one of his mentees in the University of Jos, Professor Satifat. Satifat Shak has returned 70,000 naira that he was given as bribe during accreditation. He returned to ASUU, and ASUU returned the money to NUC. I have returned money myself from accreditation. So when you say ASUU is responsible, ASUU is the one exposing these sharp practices, all that is going on as in the name of accreditation in public universities. I challenge NUC again to commit us to sending our members, as Professor Adamu did in 2015, and see whether the reports of accreditation will be the same. Yes, certainly, those who go for accreditation are academic staff, but they don't go in the name of ASUU, and ASUU cannot be held accountable for offenses. There are so many people who are Catholics. I don't want to call the name of my church because I'm not sure anybody will know it, but it is called COCIN, Church of Christ in All Nations. There are many members of Church of Christ in All Nations that get drunk every Saturday. Are you going to blame the church for their members getting drunk? So you cannot accuse ASUU of committing fraud. Yes, people who do this are academic staff, but we have taken it upon ourselves to correct the system, to expose the ills in the system. Look, by the rules, every 6 to 8, is it 6? About 4 to 6 years, there should be a visitation to our universities. Government will not send visitation teams. Even to send visitation teams to go to the universities to audit what has happened in the universities has to become a matter of strike before government will send visitation to universities. Tell us how ASUU can be responsible for this. A visitation team to audit the system. ASUU has to embark on a strike to force government to raise a team to go and audit the system. How can we be held accountable for that? That is not to say ASUU is perfect or is anything near perfect. We are not. We have so many contradictions that if we want to tell ourselves the truth, we will see that we also have to work on it. ASUU is gradually, in some way, in certain universities, we are becoming a tribe.
Yeah.
We are. And we need to look in and try to reverse that. And we can only do that when we are serious, when we are sincere, when we are we are patriotic, when we truly, you know, believe that there's a problem even amongst us and we want to change. Professor Bukari also talked about conversation, that if it is for the interests of Nigerians, then we should have a conversation about it. Why is the conversation impossible? We are ready for conversation. We've said this time and time again. In fact, the slogan in ASUU is that if the devil himself can take the face of a human being, we are ready to discuss with him.
Thank you. And that is
So conversation is something that we are open to, but there is no sincerity anytime government comes to the table to discuss with us.
Thank you. And members of the panel, don't leave all the questions.
Coordinator,
Yes,
can you
go
just
ahead.
permit me?
Please go ahead. You don't
Yes,
need
I just
permission.
wanted to add to what the president has said. I raised that question because there is a need for members to take some responsibility, that you don't, ASUU as a union has its own roles, and it cannot take the role of Senate of a university, cannot play that role of Senate, it cannot play the role of management of the university. So those of us who are members of ASUU, we have responsibilities in those various organs. When we check those responsibilities and then pass the buck to ASUU as a union, that is a disservice to our institutions and to ASUU itself. That's just one of the things I think it's important to raise some of these issues.
I just want to answer.
Yes, sir.
I want to add one thing on the Kenya question, that the person who has that question does not understand what academics are doing. When farmers are planting improved seeds that will give them better yield, it is from research that academic staff have done. So that's part of our work. When their children are trained to become graduates and get good work, that's the work of academic. So selfishness is not there, because we too have our own children, and sometimes people feel that ASUU or academic staff don't have children, they are just UNOC, or maybe they have their children in garage. No. So whatever is being done is also affecting academic staff. Even when ASUU or the union are on strike, their own promotion of their own staff, of their own colleagues are held, because no meeting will be held, so no promotion and all that. That's one thing. Secondly, issue of accreditation. You see, the thing has been bastardized fully. When you go for accreditation and you get good results, it's that the system is good. But when in a particular faculty, when accreditation is done and the departments have failed, people will make the dean believe that they have not done well. The vice chancellor will say, the government that even set up will say that what is wrong with them? They cannot even assist. So I always blame our colleagues when they don't have staff. They will now be going to stand in as staff in some other places, which is we have to stop all those things, so that nobody is actually allowed to stand in when they don't have staff. When you say they don't have staff, and the minister will now tell you that there are universities where they have 100 students and they have 1,000 staff, because that's what the accreditation result has shown. If you don't go there to go and stand in for anybody, people will know that there is shortage really, and that is the way we should be looking at it. So we must, people don't also distinguish between ASUU as a union and ASUU members as members.
Yeah.
You have ASUU members who are doing this election something and committing fraud. So is it ASUU that sent them? No. So we must be able to distinguish between the two, and don't just say it's ASUU that is doing it. I remember that I went for accreditation, the last one I went for, because they never invited me after that. We went there, they gave us a clue that, okay, it's from their textile, this thing and all that. So immediately they gave us, I just brought it out to check the stuff and all those things, and I saw an envelope in it. And I saw money in that envelope. And I just pushed the envelope back to the officer of this thing. People saw me while doing that. In the night, somebody came and said, I hope we are not going to fail. I said, fail for what? They said, you return it. I said, yes, we are paid for this job, so why should I, should I take, that's nothing to do with your result. But the university themselves, that's what they do. And that's unfortunate. And there are people that will normally will not even look at the envelope. They just carry the money. When they get home, they come and they go, but they will not return it. So the actual problem is with the society itself, not with ASUU member. Because as officers of ASUU, I have heard and I've seen officers of ASUU, either branch level at national level, returning such money. But the fact that sometimes they will not call you again, they will report that, oh, this man will expose us, this and that. It's unfortunate, but that's the way we are. That is society that is creating that problem. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, please go ahead. Please.
Okay, so it's for the president, ASUU president, and any of the panelists can also answer. I want to find out what do you think is the root cause? Why is the government treating ASUU this way? Are there some requests, some demands they are also making on ASUU that ASUU is not fulfilling? I want to find out what is actually the cause. Why is the government treating ASUU lackadaisically, as in not, ever not wanting to agree, to meet your demands, to ensure that the session runs successfully, the education system runs successfully? What do you think is the problem from your own overview and analysis of this crisis over the years?
Please go ahead.
So, Lapalola, can I answer?
Yes, it's directed at you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, there are several factors, reasons why I think government is treating ASUU this way. Number one, members of the government, the ministers and chief executives, in the entire country, I'm not talking about chief executives within the educational sector, they do not see the problem of education as a problem that affects them. So when ASUU declares a strike, or when we threaten a strike, the Minister of Finance will see it as a problem of the Minister of Education. The Minister of Science and Technology will see it as a problem of the Minister of Education. The Minister of Agri will see it as a problem that the Minister of Education has to address. That itself is a problem on how their response will be. Because if the Minister of Finance believes that he needs education, knowledge for his manpower to succeed, and that success will precede everything else in the economy of the country, then he will take the problem of the Minister of Education as his problem. If the Minister of Science and Technology realizes that the over 30 research institutions under his ministry cannot function without education, without funding education, that a strike in education can affect how his Ministry of Science and Technology ultimately performs, then he will see the problem of Dr. Alausa as his own problem. But one of the problems, Chris, that we have is that the other organs of government, once there is an ASUU strike, they think Dr. Alausa, the Minister of Education, the Minister of State should go and solve the problem. That is one of the reasons why we never get solutions. The other reason why it is like that is ideological. We see, we perceive, we know, we have accepted that education in ASUU is public good. The people in government have a clearly different ideological response to education. They see it as a capitalist thing, something that they can make. If it is not bringing in profit, then it is not important to the economy. So while we see it as public good, they see it as something they can take something out of. And that is why, if you listen now, many prominent Nigerians are saying that TETFUND should fund private education, where their interest is. Even the last chief of staff to the president, Professor Bangambari, who did not do that or encourage that when he was in government, Now he is a pro-chancellor and is asking that TETFUND should fund a private university where he has been made a pro-chancellor. So ideologically, we don't meet together. Maybe a conversation as suggested by Professor Ebokare would help us see these things better. But ideological difference is another. The other reason why they do not see education as a priority and that we always have a problem is that on their list, self-aggrandizement, accumulation, stealing from government posts is top on their agenda when they come to government. And so all they think of is how they can inflate contracts, even that would bring development to the educational institutions, the universities, for instance. You know that TETFUND now has become a marketplace. That is what TETFUND is now.
Yes.
So everybody, including the present government officials, their eyes are all set on TETFUND, believing that that is where the kettle is cooking something. And so they go there to fetch. So they are.
Oh, internet issues. So while waiting for him, any member of the panel can keep talking.
Perception about education is totally,
back.
and as members of.
Can I
Please,
just add?
please.
Yeah,
I'm really happy at the way this conversation is going on, because I believe that we may come to a point where we have a good rounded view of what is happening. The issue of leadership of councils, for instance. I'm just trying to say that we have basically third rate. In some cases, you have third rate politicians or basically individuals who just want to make money out of universities. But issues that councils should normally be taking with the visitor, councils don't perform any role. So then of course you have the issues of TETFUND as the president is talking about, which is an ASUU initiative, that it's become a point. If you look all over the Nigerian university system now, that there are so poorly built buildings. You would think that in a modern era like this, when we are talking about sustainable constructions, using of sustainable materials, they are still building matchbox kind of buildings that are not responding to modern designs and with poorly finished. And these are areas where a lot of funds from government, from could actually be applied to issues like what we are dealing with here, network issues, for instance. So it's important for us to deal with leadership. But, we need to take some responsibilities. That's the part of the point. And I'm happy that we have a president who is looking at that, Senate. We need to look at Senate. We need to look at the issue of leadership, even how we do the leadership selection within the university system. This is not ASUU now. ASUU has no role as ASUU in leadership, but we as academics must not speak with from two sides of the mouth. We can't be talking about the problem of the system and then also be part of those perpetuating the problems in the system. I have said that I don't believe that money is a problem. That in terms of funding, I'm not talking about money, but funding is the problem. But I want the president, if he's back, or any member of the panel, is it really not the case that if government patronizes the universities in terms of consulting, in terms of training, are you sure we are not going to have better funding in terms of getting some contracts from government? The second issue is this. With the current structure of the Nigerian university system, the way it is structured, without tier integration, there is no integration of the national assets. We don't integrate the national assets. There's a problem of capacity underutilization. There's a replication and duplication. There's excessive cost of redundancies and overlaps. will any funding ever be enough to deal with the problem of funding in this system? Are we not carrying, as intellectuals, actually creating the burdens that we are suffering from?
Yeah, thank you. We'll continue this conversation on. So there's a question here about parallel institutions that if you look at the structure, referring to the structure now, you have universities, and then government creates parallel institutions. University of Ibadan, Federal University of Agric, sandwiched between them is the Cocoa Research of Nigeria. That these parallel institutions are so many, claiming to do research, but replicating what universities are supposed to do. And some of them draw budgets. And in some cases, this budget may be higher than that of a university. So you have institutes of marine fish, institutes of marine water, institute of social research, so many institutes that why can't they integrate these institutes with the universities, consolidate the budget and produce greater results? Any of you can answer that question.
Thank you very much. I think there was a time the government tried to reduce the number of even the ministries. There was a report.
Committee.
Comment. Yeah. Up to today, government has not done that. I really don't know whether government has left all these things undone because it wants to have many people work in many places so that I can place their political this in there. Because we have some of these things have been discussed before. There is also collaboration sometimes. I remember when I was a student, some researchers from NISA will come to teach us at UI. You know, they'll come to teach us at UI, and that allowed us to benefit from their research anyway. It also allows them to engage in some level of teaching, which of course was used later to make them professors. So there could be relationship between and among them. But definitely, you see, the people in the universities sometimes also go to these research institutes as, you know, for their sabbatical, where they are able to also benefit from the activities that are there. So there may not be duplication when it comes to university and research institute, but there are some research institutes that are duplicating the same efforts. There are also universities that are also duplicating the same efforts. For example, there could be collaboration because they are under different ministries. So once a budget cannot affect the other people's budget, the budget in the ministry cannot affect, in the Ministry of Agriculture, for example, or for research institute will not affect the budget for education of universities as it were. But what is important is that there should be synergy. There should be reduction in the number of these research institutes that are doing the same thing all over again. But it's the same thing as universities. Government has created so many universities, even when they say, okay, we want to have private universities, there are so many private universities. There are more public universities than before that are doing the same thing that the other ones are doing. They are not funding them. So they are just there. And that's the unfortunate thing. So that one has nothing to do really with ASUU. It has to do with the government itself. And there are proposals that have been, that have been presented to the government that they never, even their own proposal, the Oransaye report that we are talking about, is, came out from them, from their own editing. They never did anything because I think it's more political to keep those things than to. So if we come around and say, okay, let us do this thing. If they want to do it, they do it. If they don't want to do it, they will not do it. This particular government, for example, has expanded the number of ministries, where we are saying that money spent on recurrent expenditure is too much. Now it has escalated in such a way that only a few amount of money is meant for capital expenditure, which is the driver of the economy. So government just does what it wants to do. It's not as if there are no reports. There are no research reports on how to go about this thing. They just decide on what they want to do and they do it. That's the unfortunate thing. In some clime, when they want to have anything, they say, okay, we want to have this policy. What are the implications of this policy? They send it to the to their universities, give us report on this. And they'll give their report, and they now follow that report to be able to achieve the objective. But here, nobody is going to ask you to give them any report. Even when they know that you can give them report, the university can give them report, they will prefer to award the contract to somebody else outside the system where they can get kickback. Because when they award these things to the university, sometimes they will not understand the issue of a kickback. And I've seen a situation whereby university will go out to say, okay, we want to organize this workshop for you. And they'll be asking, what is the need for us? So the system here seems to be different from other systems, and that's unfortunate.
Thank you. Welcome back, President of ASUU. You missed that brilliant one. But there is a question for you and for other members of the panel. That the government of Jonathan Goodluck created 9 universities. After that, 23 universities have been created. That ASUU members are benefiting from this. Moving from lecturer 1 to full professor, moving from senior lecturer with limited publication to full professors. That in the process, we now have professors that we can't trust in terms of their contributions. And we can have professors with global equivalences. And that on the one hand, ASUU we criticize the system. This may be an exaggeration, but half of its members have been promoted to professorship without being qualified. It's a serious question, it's an attack, but please answer the question to the best of your ability.
Like I said, I'm in Taraba right now, Jalingo, and this is one of the issues that we discussed this afternoon. That we are discussing it is to say that we acknowledge that there is such a problem in the system and that we need to address it. And ASUU has always been in the forefront of correcting the ills of the system. Recently, like you pointed out, several colleges of education have been upgraded to call universities of education. And we have heard and have seen how people are promoted without following the due processes for promotion. If you work in the university and you're going to be promoted to the professorial cadre, you have to be assessed internally and externally. In your assessment internally, it has to be by those who are qualified to assess you internally. And when your papers are sent out, they are sent out to experts or senior people who have the capacity and the experience to assess you to the rank of a reader or that of a full chair. But it is clear that those processes are no longer being adhered to with the proliferation of universities and especially the upgrading of colleges of education to universities of education. I place the blame, unfortunately, in this case, squarely in the hands of the Ministry of Education, because it is the Federal Ministry of Education that is directing what is going on in these institutions, or they are the ones that are still overseeing these new universities. Some of them have councils, but the councils were councils of the federal or state colleges of education. There is no law, signed law, transmuting them from the colleges of education to universities. So the council that is in place in some of these institutions cannot say they are councils of any university to okay what is going on. And that is where the interference of the Ministry of Education keeps rearing its head. We are not taking a sorry, sir. We are not taking a final position on this matter. So I may be too hasty to say this is what needs to be done, as the meeting is ongoing, even as I'm talking to you right now. And once we come up with a position on that, we'll write the Federal Ministry of Education, because we think they are the ones that are encouraging what is happening in most of these educations. And why are they doing it? They are doing it because they want to satisfy their interests and interests of politicians that are said to have influenced the establishment of those schools. And so if there is a college in Taraba State, where I am now, that has been transmuted into a university, the senator representing this zone, whose cousin or son or in-law is a chief lecturer, and he wants him to be the vice chancellor, they just arrange that he can be transferred or be made a professor and made a vice chancellor. Comrades, that is what we are seeing. But like I said, the solution to it, as is typical of ASUU, will be a result of our exhaustive discussion and consultations on this matter. And this NEC is ending today. So I believe Nigerians will get to know what our position is finally on this matter in the week to come.
From Ghana now, question from Ghana, and it's not being directed to the president of ASUU, but to the president of NLC. Oga Jero, I think are you frozen?
I'm here.
Okay. The question is being directed that ASUU president, yourself, and union leaders are like pastors looking for money. That the pastors manipulate church members to get money, that the president of ASUU, the president of NLC, all your members have money, and that unionism has become a route to making money. It's directed at you. Wow, what will you say about that?
Thank you very much.
Are you a millionaire?
My aspiration is for all my members to be millionaires. So if they are millionaires, I will be a millionaire. If that's the case. There used to be a time when salary was in shillings, 1 shilling, 2 shilling, and then £1, £2. It took a fight for salaries to be maybe 100, and salary to be maybe 1,000, and we are progressing. At every point in time, we say that labor creates wealth. Or in the process of sharing that wealth, labor is, marginalized. That is what you are seeing. And from the question, you see the class issue on what the person says. That the hen that lays the golden egg, should not feed. If you get any Nigerian leader, past or present, that has more experience than me, academic, in terms of job, in terms of years of service and whatever, then you can situate it to what you should pay me. Because I don't want to go in self-denial if ASUU president is a professor after working for how many years, is there no policy that where he's working, should he remain a level 8 officer? If he has worked for 20 years and grown to be a professor, should he not earn as professors? Now, saying we like pastors, we share something in common, going for the souls of the people, especially the oppressed. You see that the worker whose salary cannot take home, depends on you, even for you to provide psychological succor, to give him hope where there is no hope. These days, beyond salary and wage issues, we contend with marital issues. When a worker is frustrated, you are the last hope for the worker. Now, if you now look at it from the issue of manipulation, every worker's check-off dues, whether it's 1,000 or 2,000, is known, and he pays it. It is the trade union movement is the only movement where a worker can stand up at the shop floor and say, you have eaten my money. Go and check it, and is investigated. It's the only movement that there's no restriction. In fact, in the case of Nigeria, the Nigerian government still interferes by having the register of trade unions audit the funds and the accounts of every trade union in the country. So that is how we operate here. So if you are a staff of any trade union movement or organization and your salary is 20,000, that's your money. If it is 50,000, that's your money. But let me say this, the workers take care of their leaders. I could remember in Nui, and they said, no, we'll have to buy you a vehicle because the MDs are not as big or experienced as you. And you can't come to our meetings from at the back of Okada. That they will look down at you. And if they buy a car, it's an official car. It's for the office and not you, and you are not converting it to your use, if that is what the person meant. So there's no manipulation, because I needed to say this clearly, in terms of using their money or abusing their money or manipulating them for what? Trade union organization is voluntary, and it's one aspect that is highly people are marginalized. Let me give you an example with what happens in Section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution, where it clearly states that every Nigerian shall have right to belong to any political party of his choice, any religion of his choice, and any trade union of his choice. Today I ask you, why is the management and government interfering? Why would Dangote determine whether somebody should belong to a union or not? Can you tell somebody not to belong to PDP, Labour Party, or APC? So from what I'm saying, it's like there is a law, made for the workers who should be marginalized in the end. And there's the law made for the big men of this world. So that's part of the class distinction. If you equally look at what we are discussing, we seem to look at the education in isolation. If you go to other sectors of the economy, you'll be hearing government has no business in business. And that was the philosophy they used in trying to privatize electricity. And today, everybody's paying for it. They have almost privatized every area. And by the time they destroy education sector, they go into full-time privatization of that sector. Because if you check, in Nitel, up to today, nobody bought Nitel. They destroyed it before they gave licenses to people there. In the oil and gas sector, the refineries are going down. They are privatizing it. They're going to give it to, the individuals, the capitalist people in the society. And that's what is happening in the education, except that you have a conscious union. And when I say conscious, where you have intellectuals in ASUU that have been bringing this to the forefront. And you ask yourself, after 20-something years of bringing the problems, the endemic problems in the education sector to the fore, what has changed? So it has nothing to do with whether it is ASUU or NLC or whatever. But that's the problem in the society. The rich want to maximize profit, get richer, and the poor to go down there where the worker's wage would not be able to carry him till next payday.
Thank you. Question for the president. Who has appointed ASUU as a savior of the nation?
Say that again.
Who has appointed ASUU as a savior of the nation?
We are not saviors. We have never claimed to be saviors. But it is our aspiration to save this country. It is our desire to save this country from the greedy lot that we call our leaders. It is our desire to confront them on issues that we believe will shortchange Nigeria. It is our firm desire to change the narrative and give Nigeria a future and give our young people a future. I was reading somewhere about, by the way, I like Professor Ibokare a lot for a long time. So I was reading something about him. I don't know whether he has a house of his own now, but these are people that in the early 90s, they were engaged in the battle, fierce battle against the military that led to the formation or creation of TETFUND, that today, 3 years after its creation, the children of those who were children at the time that battle was fought are enjoying from the outcome of that struggle. And so their generation, and some of us can never claim any entitlement to their struggles. Their generation are saviors. They have saved this country. They have saved the educational sector. They have saved the child of that person in Ghana if he's in Nigeria. And so they have, without calling themselves saviors, they have carried out heroic acts and suffered greatly. Some of them have lost their lives, to do it. Just to add to what my president, Comrade Ajero, was saying, in ASUU, all of us, I believe, on this panel, and perhaps those who are listening around the world, Tipo Fashino.
Yeah.
Fashino is still living in the staff quarters in the university. He doesn't have a house of his own. Asisi Asobe is still living in a rented apartment to this day. I visited Biodun Ogunyemi just last week in his house in Ijebu-Ode. He has a house. It is an ancient old house that was a low-cost building that was sold to his family. I can tell you so many people like that, our leaders. I have been building a house for the past 15 years. I'm trying to complete it.
Ajero
and I will complete it.
Ajero will complete it for you.
He cannot. He cannot. The man was attacked and beaten black flu, and he could not afford a medical treatment for himself. He could not. The president of NLC would have been blinded. He would have been blind today if we had left him to take care of himself.
Thank you.
He doesn't have any money.
Thank you. This question is directed to Professor Ibokari, that why are you, is using you as professors, comparing yourself with senators? That in the arguments of ASUU, they will tell us that a senator wants 29 million. Is that not a level of arrogance for a professor to be comparing himself with a senator? Second, that if you love the prestige and money of senators, who asked you not to resign from university jobs, join the APC, and go and run for an election?
I think we've heard these arguments before. This kind of it's a very interesting one. I think for me, I always look at such questions as opportunity to debate and to educate people. I don't think the reason the professors raise the issue of the salaries of the senator is because there is an envy of senators.
Never.
I think the problem was that when governments and politicians tell the rest of the country to tighten their belt, there must be leadership even in adversity. So when we draw attention to what senators earn, we are saying that the poverty and the frustration and the suffering must go round, and the leaders must be in front.
Yes.
So that's why it's not about. I mean, I don't think most academics will want to do the kind of the job that senators. We don't envy them, and we don't have Ghana must go that we used to buy election votes from people and so on and so forth. No, that's not the point. The point basically is that the average Nigerian worker deserves a level
living wage
of comfort. That's just the point. And it shouldn't be too difficult for people to understand that when you are paying somebody 70,000 naira at this point in time, that you are sending the person to the gallows. Look, some of my colleagues sleep in their office.
In the University of Lagos, they now do that a lot.
Yes, they sleep in. There is a particular one who has all his family members come to the office, and then he spreads the children among colleagues. I mean, what kind of work do you expect such a person to do? This is misery. This is human misery, and that's the point that the issue of when you see people criticize academics, and this is why I'm always coming to. People are not wicked. I mean, when people raise issues like it's not because they are wicked, but I think we are in a position to educate people, let them know that it's not a case of they and us, but that it's a case of Nigerians. So there's no envy of senators. I don't think it's a job that any academic wants to do, but we're saying that the Nigerian professor deserves a minimum level of comfort to be able to do his work, not because he just wants to. Do you know, sir, that I pay every month? I spend about 45,000 naira on data. That's my money. I buy my laptop. A laptop. You know how much a laptop? Last time I was traveling by road because I couldn't afford the airfare, and my laptop dropped. And I'm supposed to do online teaching. And that is why I'm often angry with my colleagues that we can solve some of the problems we face without necessarily shifting the burden to ASUU. There's a level of workload that we are meant to carry. If there is excess in the department and you have your normal workload, don't do any excess. Leave the parents, leave the university, the vice chancellors who are well taken care of, and the council to deal with the problem of staff that are not there. But to carry additional load and then begin to fight to be paid for a job that you cannot do well, I actually think that it's not something that you should shift to ASUU. It's something that should be dealt with within the university system. So we are not envying senators at all, but you cannot double the salary of judges 300%, and then ASUU is begging for a marginal increase. I mean, this is not. It's not something that should be held in a place where you have intellectual. It's actually we feel humiliated.
Very good. President of ASUU, another challenge. Universities are very corrupt. That they are not different from Abuja ministries and politicians. And that these are also ASUU members. That if you cannot manage your corrupt universities, why are you talking about the management of the nation? ASUU, President.
Yeah. We have not been tried as ASUU to manage the universities and have failed, or tried as ASUU to manage the country or your local government and we have failed. It is ASUU that requires, desires, pushes government to even send visitation panels to review all the malfeasance within the system within a period. That we even have to go on strike to force government to come and investigate what is happening in our universities. And some people still think that we are part of the problem. Well, I don't know. Are vice chancellors academic staff? Yes. Are they members of ASUU? Yes. Do we challenge them? Yes, we do. Do we tolerate or condone corruption? No, we don't. In fact, one of the major obstacles that we always have as members of ASUU with our administration is the fact that we always challenge them as to some of these practices and the corruption that is going on.
Well,
like I said earlier on,
okay.
As ASUU, we have looked at ourselves and we know that there are things we need to do to make things better in the university. But I can assure you that simply because our members are not doing the right thing does not mean we cannot, raise it. In fact, when we raise it, we are also limited as to what we can do to punish them. We're not their employers. All we do, we have ethics and grievances committee. We investigate a matter, we establish it, we send to the university. We go for visitation panel sittings. We challenge the vice chancellors, the previous administrations in the university. We submit to the visitation panel. We are not the ones to punish or take any definitive action, but we have never, that person or such persons should challenge us where we have seen things going wrong and we have accepted or condoned it. But to just make an allegation like that may not be fair on us.
Professor Teller, the focus is now on you, that in African countries, all of them, the son of the police officer becomes a police. The daughter of a Navy officer becomes a Navy. The son of a politician becomes a politician. And that today in all African universities, the professors recruit their wives, they recruit their children. It is their children that go to the law school, the medical school. And that we are dealing with all institutions that are basically corrupt, including you all as professors.
Came from. I don't know where that one came from, but all I know is
It's
that
from South Africa. That question comes from South Africa.
Yes, none of my children is even in academics, so they are not here. But there's nothing wrong if you have brilliant children and they take up your profession. But the fact that in Nigeria they will not even want to take up your profession because of the fact that they see you that this man is just struggling to survive, and these children don't want to engage in that. Many of our young lecturers are not even saying now, because they feel that last time I went to Canada and I saw two of my former students who are now doing their PhD. Anyway, when you finish, I hope you are going to return to where? Because the atmosphere is not conducive. As a professor, when I was in the university, I had to have my own inverter in my office because a senior professor has told me before that you must be a department in your department. So I have to save money to make sure that I have inverter in my office, I have my printer, I have everything that I needed, because the university will not provide all those things. And my children are aware of that, so they don't see the reason why they should follow me. So that's the thing with many of us. So But there's nothing wrong when you have your children and they are brilliant and they want to do the same thing that you are doing, is okay. But the fact is that
no, but they are saying the admission process is
yes,
about corruption.
Admission
That you
process, my
recruit your
children did not even
children into
attend
your
my own
university.
university. My own children did not even attend the university where I was. They attended the Lorry. I mean, I was in the OU. So if your children want to come to the university, it's okay, because it also means that they believe that you are doing well there. But it's not always so. The admission is done generally by the department, particularly by a committee established by Senate. So it's not a matter of anybody working out to make sure that his children are in the university. But there's nothing wrong with your children. If all your children go to your university, it might also be because you want to minimize costs of having to send them away when you know that you don't have enough resources to even do that. But saying that we are manipulating
this question comes from Gambia, directed at the Punch editor.
Okay.
That female academics do not protect women students on campuses. That there is no movement whatsoever to stop sexual predators. And he added that if he wants to have a girlfriend, he pays for it, but university teachers get it for free. How could they calculate the allowance of free sex?
That's a huge allegation against the university system. The writer cannot conclude that there are no female lecturers supporting victimized students or abused female students. If we look at issues that has to do with sexual accusations, sexual abuse, it's actually the female lecturers, the female professors that a lot of time are at the forefront, insisting that the male lecturer involved in that sexual abuse is dealt with legally. So that writer cannot just conclude that way, especially if you don't have your facts. Have you gone to some institutions in the country? Have you come to Nigeria to, do your investigations, and, you were able to get victims, girls that were sexually abused by lecturers, and they actually told you that a female professor or female lecturer shut them up or told them to keep quiet? No. Women, especially older women, they are usually the ones that give courage to victimized females, usually. And because whenever they hear that it's a man that is involved, they're always like, no, it must be dealt with. He's using his power as a man. They would want to, in court, not bring him down, in court now, they want to ensure that he's brought down legally, he's dealt with. So it's not like that in Nigeria. In the Nigerian system, the female lecturers, the senior female lecturers, females, senior women generally, even in the church setting, even in the community, they ensure that such women or such girls are given a voice, are allowed to express themselves, and legal actions are taken. And if that person tries to check the news reports of several sexual issues, there was one, was it LASU or where, that lecturer that was staying at Sipaja that time, I think there was another one, OAU, you will notice that none of those lecturers were retained or asked to stay back. They were dealt with. Some of them were jailed. The Nigerian system frowns at, not Nigerian system, the university system, the Nigerian university system frowns at sexual abuse. Even the male lecturers too, they always insist that such a colleague should be dealt with. So it's not true.
Thank you very much. I want to thank members of the panel for this over 2 hours endurance. There is 2 more segments, the audience segments and your closing statement. Members of the audience, now you can ask questions. As many questions you can ask. Majid Alabi, the procedure is you must introduce yourself. We want to know your institutions. We don't take anonymous people. Please, Majid Alabi, please spotlight him and let him ask his question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof.
We want to see your face. Please, let's see his face. Go ahead. We don't take anonymous people.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
My name is Majid Alabi. I am a journalist and chairman of the Education Writers Association of Nigeria, and also the team lead and editor-in-chief at Dev Reporting. Thank you very much to you for organizing this, and thank you very much to the panelists. Professor Egbokare, thank you very much. The ASUU National President, thank you very much. I just want to place this. The ASUU President stated clearly it's fair that the political elite are already planning, conspiring to extend TETFUND grants to private universities. May I inform you that this is already existing? Whether ASUU is not aware that TETFUND now sponsors candidates for postgraduate programs in private universities in Nigeria. And this, to us, is a gradual process. Because when you pay and you send money to private institutions, and surprisingly, a particular private institution was given directive on why some sects, a particular sect, dressing in a particular manner, cannot participate in a program already paid for by TETFUND. So I want ASUU to know that this is already happening, and maybe the next thing we are going to be hearing is that research grants and support intervention grants are already being given to private universities. That's one. Number two, for ASUU, the workers' unions in the universities are aware of the kind of the decadence that we have in our tertiary institutions and universities in particular, where a vice chancellor, even to the level of deans, we have reduced the universities, not only to the universities in terms of universal status, that we are now reducing our tertiary institutions to local systems, where a dean must come from a particular community where the university comes from. A vice chancellor must be from a state owned by the university. All these things have practically reduced the kind of the capacity of our institutions in terms of approach to national issues. What is ASUU doing about this? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we would like to know more about your organization in due course. Please, members of the panel, write down these questions. I'm allowing you to rest so that you do not respond to each question. Anna Etta. Anna, we're waiting for you.
Good evening, everybody on the panel. Good evening, ASUU.
Where
Sorry,
are you
I'm
coming
in the kitchen.
From? Where
Professor Hannah Etta,
yes.
University of Cross River State.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I'm a very ardent member of ASUU. My university is a state university, yes, but we identify with everything ASUU. And despite all those funny questions people were asking, I don't think ASUU is responsible for the running of the university. ASUU is the trade union that is responsible for the welfare of its members and not how universities get to be run. Let management deal with the running of the university, but the welfare of the members of ASUU is what ASUU should be bothering about. And at this point, I know we had a two weeks warning strike that was abandoned halfway because we had more promises from the government. I didn't like that at all, because we have been existing on promises since 2009. So I don't know why we decided to believe the government this time around and called off that warning strike. In any case, I would like to know where we are with those line of discussions at this time. Are things going to change for the better in the nearest future? That's my question.
Professor Piwuna, you have to write down that question, because she's saying, as of now, this time we are talking, where are we now? What is the update? Isilen Agbon, sorry if I do not pronounce your words very well. These are identity group issues. They're pronouncing the names present some difficulties.
Thank you.
Please, where are you calling from? That is always important to me.
Oh, I'm calling from Dallas, and I used to be a teacher in a Nigerian university, in University of Ibadan.
So you japa, you ran away, right? Or what happened?
Yes, okay. Which is one of my questions, in the sense that the skills of all ASUU members are transferable all over the world, and at higher rates of return. So it's like a prophet have no honor in his own country. When you step out of Nigeria, you find that you are a superstar. When you are back home, you are just, whatever your intellectual output is not really giving, does not carry much weight. So I am concerned about the future, especially this Japa syndrome, in the sense that the younger ones will follow people like my footstep instead of following the footstep of people like Francis. They were, for both of us, it's like different paths. So now, in 5 years' time, we are going to have 60 million people between the ages of 20 and 30. That is university age. And about, let's say, 20% of them, 12 to 18 million people are supposed to be local. Let's say 20% of the population have first degree if we're going to be a developing nation. So between 2030 and 2035, the university system in Nigeria should be able to handle 6 to 10 million university students. Most of the lecturers are leaving. I am asking the ASUU president and NLC and the people in the panel to comment about how they are able to get the leaders of the country to understand that the transfer, the opportunities abroad that people like me take, and the brain drain that is happening, how they tie that in to all these their plan they have in Nigeria between the years of 2030 and let's say 2035.
Thank you so much. Agbon, since you left Nigeria, have you contributed to that system? Please bring him back. Hello? Agbon, bring Agbon back, our technical partner. Okay. So, because there's a criticism directed at those of us who left, that we understand the problems. Why are we separating those in Africa from us? Why are we doing that divide? Why don't we see it as our business to be part of that struggle? And there was a question from South Africa. Why is the union in each country fighting its own battle instead of creating a Pan-African union of scholars? If that their problems are similar, why can't they fight it as Nkrumah fought, as Du Bois fought? Please write down all these questions, because I'm allowing you to take a break. We have 9 vice chancellors who have joined, 6 on YouTube. Let me call one of them who is joining us on Zoom, Professor Mobolaji Aluko. And I want to thank our partners from China, This is being translated immediately to Chinese. I thank our colleagues, they call themselves the Socialist Forum from Hungary, who have also joined. And as we're filing reports, we have been able to generate in 28 countries an audience of over 5 million people. So this has been a very significant program because of the connections to similar issues in different African countries. And I have to also thank our colleagues from Uganda who have joined. And one of them says the salary in Uganda is higher than that of Nigeria. And Nigeria has a better revenue system. Professor Aluko, former Vice Chancellor.
Good evening, Professor Falola and my colleagues in ASUU and the NLC chairman or president. I just have a few questions for the ASUU leader and the others.
Please, can you raise because this is being recorded.
Yeah, I see. Okay, I've raised it. Yeah, I see. Okay, you can hear me now. Well,
but raise yourself. We can see you only to
I see. I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Sorry.
This is being recorded.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I will. Yeah. My question is the following: that how many professors, readers, and so on in the private, in the public sector? I read something like 100,000 lecturers in the universities and about 170,000 people in the non-teaching staff. And so I wonder, what will be the salary of the university professor at this point in time that you think is fair? At this point in time that you think is fair, so that somehow we can have an idea of the total public bill that we are talking about. Because as university intellectuals, we should not negotiate like dock workers. We should negotiate in a manner that shows a certain level of analysis that we can defend. That's number one, if you don't mind. Number two is ASUU a labor organization or an academic organization? I know that basically ASUU works towards the welfare of the staff, but you also talk about the academic aspect. So I want to be sure that there's a good differentiation so that one knows how to pigeonhole ASUU. I have lived in a university environment all my life. All my life. I did not escape this country. I just did not come back on time. But when I came back to the university system. Thank you.
Thank you. Please write down all these questions. Bola Dauda, Emeritus Professor Bola Dauda.
Thank you. I have 3 areas. One is a question and 2 in terms of comments. I will start with the comments. Professor Ekugare actually named it down in the introduction that the attitude and the belief of government in education is not the same thing as ASUU stands for. I remember my role in Ogun State in the 1979-80 Second Republic. I was in charge of the task force for education as secretary of that task force. And because the government then believed in education as one of its 4 cardinal points, the government, we were spending 56% of the budget, of the state budget on education and 12% on health. So I don't know now whether there's any state or any government that is spending anything close to 10% on education. So if the government didn't believe in education, there is limit to how far you can get all these issues we are talking about. And that is where the philosophical or the ideological point referred to during the introduction by Professor Epokare nailed it on the spot. The second point has to do with what is the role of ASUU in terms of or their reaction to the issue of 80 points for admission to colleges of education. Again, back to Professor Ebokare, talking about the holistic look at education from primary to secondary to university. If the teachers, colleges of education or universities of education as they are called, have 80 points out of 400, which is 20% pass mark to admit teachers, what do you think is the implication for your own level of performance at university level when the teachers from these colleges of education will produce the professionals for the country? You are talking of development. And I think we need to look at this. I was shocked when they agreed that the cutoff point was 80 points out of 400 to get admission to all the colleges of education that are producing the teachers. Thank you.
That is very serious because I'm not aware of that. Dr. Dauda, that task force committee that is referring to is the one that suggested the creation of Olabisi Onabanjo University. But we don't have institutional memory. Sometimes we don't have the papers to write the history, and we forget very quickly those who made these contributions. Professor Dr. Igban, I thought I've called you, but you want to talk again. Simon Mary Aikoa. Simon Mary Aikoa, please.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. This
Okay.
conversation has been so successful.
Yes, I am sorry I came late. I had to go to church. I just got back. But I said I wasn't going to miss this. Now, I missed most of the early conversation. So if what I'm going to say has been said, I do apologize. I am a professor of religious studies and theology and affiliate faculty of ethnic studies here at the United States, the University of Portland. So, but I want to say something before I ask the question. 4 years ago, I wanted to take a sabbatical to write a book, and I was really intentional on being in Nigeria to do the research and write there. And I wrote an email to the Ministry of Education. I wrote an email to the think tank I saw that's in Lagos, happened to be the only functioning think tank in Nigeria. As I'm talking to you right now, since the last 4 years, no one replied those emails. So they have email system that's not functioning, or no one checks them. But I heard earlier on somebody talked about the salaries. I think maybe that's, if professors are still talking about how to be paid salaries, I think we are still living in the 1800s. It's not, the production of scholarly life does not rely on salaries, but really on research funding. And so I'm asking the question, how much endowed professorship positions do Nigerian institutions have? Nigeria stands at the crossroad of great success or utmost failure at this time of our national history because of the statistics that was just rendered. Nigeria has the largest Gen Z population in the world, so Africa in general. So if we get it right now, then we have transformed the continent for the best. If we don't get it right now, the next 20 years, then we are doomed. So I'm asking the question, what should the governments, you don't need the federal government for this, you need individual billionaires in Nigeria to invest in education. So I think that is what ASUU should be doing. Cut the relationship with the Nigerian billionaires within and outside to create endowed positions where serious research can be going on in the country. The University of Nebraska has a genius program, and it is siphoning Nigerian intellectuals, young intellectuals, I happen to know many of them, into their program. And this is just unacceptable. So I just wanted to say that, yeah, what is ASUU doing? Is ASUU more still on the level of getting salaries for professors, or are they talking about the big conversation, the global conversation?
Very good. So a question came from Nigeria that American, European universities are now establishing branches all over Africa. And the University of Birmingham has just said that they've approved, because I read this information from the minister himself, the establishment of a branch of the University of Birmingham in Lagos. And people are asking, what is ASUU's position on this? And that they know as of this time that this may damage some of the public universities. Please write down that question. Why is Chris Piwuna raising up his hand as president of ASUU? You want to talk?
Yeah, I would like to respond to some of these questions because,
Please
like I said,
ahead.
we're at the meeting right now, and I've excused myself to be part of this program, and I have to go back to ground up the meeting. First of all, thank you all for these questions. Alabi, Mojid, thank you very much. Mojid is one of our great mobilizers, supporters in this struggle. And thanks for the information about TETFUND. And for Prof in CRUTEC, where are we now? We're still negotiating with government. We hope it will end soon. The terms of the agreement are shaping up, and we hope that in the next week or two, we'll go back and then we'll be able to give a definite statement as to what needs to be done. What is very clear is that what government is offering us as salary is not acceptable, and we are ready to go to any length to make sure that we fight that. And because we are going to fight the issue of our salaries to any length, I would like to tie it to the question that was asked by the last speaker about if ASUU is still talking about salaries, then we are in the 18th century. Yes, sir, we're in the 18th century, probably the 17th century now, because our salaries are nothing to talk home about, and we do not have those grants that you have. Sometimes those of us who are back here in the country feel as if those of you out there do not truly appreciate what we're going through here. Because when you talk as if we're not engaging enough with the billionaires or the millionaires within and outside the country, it makes us feel you do not understand what we are going through right now. All the billionaires have private universities in Nigeria. That's what they are funding. They have no interest in public education. They have no interest in public universities. I can assure you of that. We have reached out to them. We have discussed with them personally and even officially. When Buhari was in power, we went to meet about 4 or 5 billionaires who said they were going to solve our problems. You know, we should call off the strike. We've not heard anything from them since that time. So yes, we're struggling. The little grants that we have in Nigeria that is coming from TETFUND is as a result of these struggles that we have embarked on over the years. It didn't drop from anywhere. We struggled, we battled government, we went on strike, we resisted them to get the little grants that we're getting right now. And it is nothing at all compared to the rate of growth of our institutions. So we cannot boast of any endowed positions, not because we are incompetent, not because we do not have the capacity, but because we have to eat. Sir, we have to eat to look for where the endowments are. Right now, we cannot eat. Professor Ibukare is just talking about colleagues that sleep in the office. How can that person who sleeps in the office and brings his family to the campus to spread them over, how can that person look for any endowment? So we're in the 17th century, not in the 18th century, and we're struggling to get out of it. How many professors are readers or professors in Nigeria?
Let me stop you and say, let us give you 20 minutes so that you can go to your meetings. So if you can suspend answering the question, we just give you 20 minutes and let you go, because your meeting is very important. Members of the audience, let me apologize, I cannot call all of you. Let me call Wahab Ademola Assis, Provost of Federal University of Technology. Please be very brief. The ASUU president has to go to a national executive meeting.
Yeah, good evening, all. Thank you very much, our comrades, the comrade president and NSC president and our professors. I just want to briefly talk on the issue raised by ASUU president concerning the conversion of the colleges of education to university. Possibly, maybe I'm the only one from college education system here on this program. I'm not very sure. But I want to say that I think I want the ASUU leadership to critically look at the issue of the conversion. Because if we check some of the colleges of education that have been converted, I'll just mention just 4 of them. That's Adeyemi College of Education, which is now University Adeyemi Federal University of Education. Alva Nkoku College of Education, now University, then the one in Zaria and the one in Kano. And there's also a dichotomy between the university nomenclature and that of college of education. I finished from Adeyemi College of Education. I did my degree there, and that for those lecturers that taught there, Adeyemi College of Education, now University of Education, in the area of pedagogy, is one of the best in the country. And if you look at the infrastructure, the facilities, but the lecturers, because of the nomenclature, are just limited to chief lecturer. That's the highest. That I want our colleagues in the universities to also look at. Where in the world that we still have such nomenclature as chief lecturer? Understand? So because we should also look at the education system in totality, just like a polytechnic too. So
okay, you've made your point.
It shouldn't be only the university where you have professors. So Adeyemi is and Frankoku and other college education that have been converted. Merit the conversion.
Yeah.
So then secondly, secondly, Dr. Dauda also raised the issue of cutoff point 80. For admitting students to colleges of education. 80 is very, very absurd. It's very absurd. The problem is that how many the college education system is not attractive again. It's not, and that even all of us here, or many Nigerians don't want their children or wards to attend college education anymore because of the certification. Understand?
Thank you.
So we need to find.
Thank you. As I said, sorry, we won't be able to call everyone because ASUU president has to leave. Let's take two more. Kuma Joshua Ayua. Forgive me if I do not pronounce your name very well. If you are all brief, we can take three, but if you are not brief, unfortunately, we have to take two. Kuma Joshua Ayua. We can't see you. Nathaniel Ogunyale. Technical people, please. And John Ayam. The first one you are able to spot, John Ayam.
Can you hear me now?
Hello, sir.
We can hear you. Please, who is talking?
Nathaniel Ogunyale is talking.
Please go ahead. Please,
My name is Nathaniel Ogunyale.
Yes.
Lecturing at Lagos State University of Science and Technology. All what has been discussed are germane to the sources of education in Nigeria. One area I want to refer to is Professor statement that ASUU should look at other areas apart from to benefit levels. And one of the areas to emphasize is the issue of TETFUND sponsorship. TETFUND is or was and is still one of the very important developments from us. But as at today,
sorry, you are having technical issues at your end. Sorry about that. So we call Ayua is not around, and we call John Ayam is not around.
I am around.
Please talk, please. Very briefly.
Ayua is around.
Please talk very briefly.
Good evening. Yeah. I am a lecturer at Federal University Lokoja, but currently I'm on my PhD in China. So I'm speaking from Wuhan, China.
Why are you using English? Speak Chinese.
Nimen hao. Don't you what Zhongguan Bu hao?
No, I'm just making a joke. People have joined us from China as institutions, and they are doing immediate translations as we are talking. Please be very brief.
All right, sir. One core issue I would like to ask my comrade president. I am a consummate ASUU member, and it's one of the things that attracted me into academics, the struggles of ASUU and what they stand for. But now we are facing an ideological shift, especially for young academics like ourselves, where we want to see a fight for our welfare. And then most of us are no longer interested in hearing any other aspect of the struggle except for our welfare. But then we also understand the importance of funding for our universities and every other thing. So how can the union balance this shift in ideology so that we remain relevant, ASUU remains relevant, especially as the baton is being passed on to us? And then in line with that, I also want to ask about the proliferation of other unions, especially within the academics. I wouldn't want to go into names as well. Are these issues ideological differences? And then is there a plan for a unity so that we will have the same purpose? Because sometimes we hear these issues. In this last struggle, there was the issue of the minister saying people should go to work and they should sign names, and then in a department where we belong, somebody who is in this other union began to put meetings at that particular time. So there is no unity of purpose. So is there a plan for us to unite, especially with the splinter groups and other unions whom the former Minister of Labour approved?
Thank you. And let me apologize for my behavior. So let's now come to the conclusion. And before we do that, let me announce the following. 2 minutes after this conversation is over, the entire transcript is released to the world. And there'll be more comments, more questions, and people are going to view it. In fact, after the interview, many more people view it. Second, media houses have joined, Guardian, Vanguard, Tribune. I do not know how they are going to report this conversation between Tuesday and Thursday. Third, I do my own analysis. Sometimes I do 2 pieces reflecting on what you have all said. Immediately the program is over, we play music for those who are not tired, who want to be listening to the music. Let's now make our closing statements. The president of ASUU, I will start with you. If you make it long, the other people will make it long. But you have to rush to your own meeting. So be very brief so that everybody can make their closing statements. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I thank all our viewers who have listened in and have asked questions. Unfortunately, we can't answer all the questions, just like we can't take all the questions. But let me just say this. TETFUND is meant for public universities. If anybody is taking funds from TETFUND anywhere other than public universities and tertiary institutions, then that person is spoiling for a fight. And we're ready to give that person the fight. TETFUND has deviated from its mandate, and we are ready to reverse that. How we're going to do it is to try to, in a very civilized way, engage with the management of TETFUND, the board of TETFUND, and government to stop this abuse of the mandate of TETFUND. And if they don't agree to conversing, discussing with us these matters on the table, then we'll know what to do. I find the last question very interesting. The generational shift in the union. We are quite aware of it, and we're doing everything to accommodate it. It is not new, as Professor Teller and Bokari will tell you. This issue of our welfare, bread and butter, ASUU has gone through it before, and we have weathered the storm, and we are willing, we are ready to bring everybody on board to make sure that the needs, the desires of our members are attended to. We are no longer going to apologize for anything that is coming to us in ASUU to anybody anymore. But we are also not going to leave the universities behind. We're going to ensure that the universities are properly cared for. ASUU is a trade union. We are not an association. We're a trade union, and we have the certification, the license for that. And we will, that is who we are. I would like to just say something about Professor Izele Egbon. You asked him whether he's participating. I would like to answer for him. Prof has been immensely helpful to us back home, and we cannot thank him enough. We just hope that he, along with people like you, Professor Falola, will continue with what you're doing in, deepening academic practice, research, and support mentorship.
Let me stop you, because we are closing this program. We are closing this program because of you. Otherwise, we still have 1 hour, but we'll close it for you. Next Sunday, same time, 5 p.m. Nigerian time, we are discussing Trump and Nigeria, which has become the main issue now in terms of politics in our country. Professor Bokari, very brief closing statement. Somebody asked the question, does ASUU want an assistant lecturer to be paid 1 million naira? And they are saying that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I actually don't know what the assistant lecturer is about. It should end, but I think whatever it is asked for should be commensurate to the kind of job for a particular position. So that's what I think. I think the union is not irrational. I think people have the impression that we just throw figures out there. No, there are negotiation positions. There are fallback positions. At the end of the day, the union will always succumb to the greater good and wisdom. So I don't think 1 million is just a figure. 1 million today may just become like 1,000 naira tomorrow. So I think at this point in time, the negotiating position is known. And then, of course, the conversation with government will ultimately determine what the output will be.
Thank you very much. Dr. Teller, closing statement. We can't hear you.
I think
good.
I want to say that the government and the people, particularly the rich ones, should be able to fund education to the point that we have grants. You see, it's as if they don't care about grants. Even many of our colleagues would go to South Africa for postdoc grant, for all sorts of research grants and all that. They won't come back. So there's need for them to realize that the future academy is very important. Some people are going out. You still have to recall them to come and do contract in order to be able to sustain the system. And that's not going to last long. So it's better for government to make sure that they do all they can to sustain the interest of the younger ones to remain here. And the younger ones are not like the old ones who can say, okay, we are going to manage, we can get grants. There are no grants these days from outside, no easy grants, unlike before where you can have grants, you can do consultancy and all that. Those consultancy are no longer there. So it's important that government must make sure that people are properly remunerated and universities are properly funded so that lecturers can do research and come up with a good report that can assist them to get funding from other sources, because the lack of that funding that is affecting ability to get grants, even external grants. And those are the things that keep academics on in the university. Some of us are not interested in getting the same salary as what you are interested in. Somebody is mentioning your name, that okay, quoting you as references, then you feel happy that, oh yes, that's me. And that is what is important to academics.
I'm sorry to stop you from talking. Punch editor, you should report this conversation. What's your closing statement?
Okay, yeah, my closing statement is that a doctor, I think Dr. Simeon Mary, he spoke about partnership. I think the university system should focus also on getting partnership from, he spoke about billionaires, the rich in the society, even the alumni. They should invest more into the system. They could build modern laboratories, create better system for students to study, create better system for lecturers to teach. So I support that aspect. There should be more investment from the private sector. And also for, I think Dr. Daudu spoke about the 80 points for 400 for education system. It reviews the way we have taken our education system in Nigeria for us to request 80 points, 80 marks for study. This has to do with JAM and other education stakeholders taking that decision. So I think there should be a need to jack it up. We should not have the dullest or the lowest minimum students to be our teachers. Whatever they produce will also be lower quality students. Thank you very much, sir.
The reason why I'm calling Comrade Ajero last is that we will devote an entire panel to the Nigerian Labour Congress. Mobilize your people and give us the time on a Sunday. You'll be the focus of attention. We'll ask you many questions. I appreciate your honesty in answering those difficult questions. You didn't sidetrack them and you did not play politics. So I think we have to bring you back. Why are you supporting ASUU? Make that your closing statement. Why is the NLC supporting ASUU?
Thank you very much, sir. Some people have been talking about wage. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs starts from food, shelter, and those basic needs. Nobody, including those asking the question, can do without it. So they should not be talking of ASUU and maybe wages. And from the question you asked here about why we are supporting ASUU, let me equally add that ASUU is a trade union organization, clearly. And that is what guarantees it to fight for the interests of its members. I used to be a journalist, and in fact, a national officer of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. And we had this crisis, whether NUJ is a union or it is a professional organization. That was what led to where NUJ is today. Nobody can tell you that NUJ is on strike asking for the welfare of their members. It's not happening. Now, you claim to be a professional organization when about 90% of your members are on paid employment. So what happens? You want to compare it with a doctor that can convert his room to a clinic, or a lawyer that can convert his room to a chamber. So we need to understand this, why you want to be a trade union organization or just an association. For that, as one of our affiliates, and those who model character, whether behavioral modification or whatever, we understand the importance of the role they are playing clearly, not just that they are our affiliates. And there are other affiliates from the universities, you can name them, about 5 or 6. We all support the agitation, especially when it comes to a worker deserves his wage. And like my brother was saying about senators and whatever, we are not apologetic about this. Why will you say you don't want a lecturer to earn 1 million naira? Those of you calling from abroad, are they paying you $600? That's equivalent of 1 million. It's to underprice our people if you say you don't want a lecturer to earn 1 million naira. What is the worth of 1 million naira? Because when you go ahead to devalue your currency and you call the name in terms of quantum, 1 million naira, 2 million naira, that is what? So I think that's the question. And you are telling us to look at the global perspective. What is your currency in terms of global rating? I'm surprised that, we say we don't want 1 million naira is the least you could pay to a lecturer. And I say this, and that is why we support ASUU, despite the fact that, we have suffered a setback, on the issue of negotiation of wages. But if the government of Nigeria would take inflation down, bring all conditions being, all variables, taken into consideration, if you're not talking of somebody earning 100,000, and I still say it here, there's nobody that earns even 50,000 of his currency anywhere. So the important thing is that we must check, the bastardization of our currency, the inflation, every other economy, every other currency around West Africa, Cotonou, all these ones are higher than ours. And we are proud to say, we are a giant of Africa. I think we need to go back to the basics and for this conversation to continue. Like ASUU said, they are willing for conversation, but you can't discuss with yourself. That would be too bad. So let us take this. The government of Nigeria for some time now are running away from debate. When even Babangida wanted to introduce SAP, we took it to the streets, we took it to the universities everywhere, and we provided alternatives to SAP. Today, you don't understand the policy we are operating. Nobody debates it. You just hear it there. So I think we should bring back that culture of debate, and that is where power comes from. Power comes from the people. When Babangida was defeated on the system of government to choose, I think the IMF were telling him, we didn't ask you there to go and debate whether you want SAP or not. But Nigerian people must discuss on issues that affect them. If you say you are bringing petrol import tax today, I think we should discuss it. I know how it affects us. So that's the point I'm making, and that's why we support ASUU, because ASUU is bringing some of these things for public discourse. And if you have it there, I think we should get more points. In fact, better for the government in power, whether at the state or national level, for them to, take more progressive decision that will affect the ordinary man in the country. So even lecturers should aim more than senators. And I will still say again that I'm not apologetic. The lecturers that teach the senators, maybe 2 years after you leave school, you start earning. It is a place that wage is not graduated with productivity. If we must graduate wage with productivity, not when you appear for public hearing, you appear for sitting 7 times in a month. You aim more than somebody that goes for lectures for maybe 8 to 6 in the evening for 5 days or 6 days. He marks his scripts, he does everything. We should benchmark it. We should look at job analysis and job evaluation before we determine what anybody is paid, whether from political office, judiciary, or legislative. If you say the judiciary, their salaries have been increased by 300%, there are professors of law that are teaching them. So what about that? There are many professors that are sons and some other senior judges who equally later decided to teach. So we should match all these and have a clear policy on wage system and remuneration.
Thank you very much. You could see how members of the audience have appreciated your talk. They keep raising they're clapping for you as you are talking. We'll bring you back. On behalf of all our technical crew, our consultant for this program, students, representatives, technical partners, my PA, because we have a large number of staff. We thank you all. I cannot thank our partners enough. Our partners change with the program. If we do a book analysis, we are going to have like 3 partners because they are not interested. But interest on this is high. And we are even expecting more interest next Sunday when we discuss a big issue that is ongoing in Africa, that of intervention. And now we have to deal with terrorism. I cannot thank all of you enough for your time. I'm knowing some of you for the first time. Dr. Tella, I'm knowing for the first time. I've known Francis for a long, long time. I know some of his views. And I'm meeting the president of NLC for the second time. I was a keynote speaker. I don't think he's a keynote, the only speaker when they honored his predecessor, Alhaji Sumoni, and created a center in his honor. Just a few weeks ago, I met him for the first time. Can you give us a song before you go? Can you give us a union song before you go? And we use your song to close this program, please.
I wish that ASUU president is here. So
don't worry, we are recording it.
Solidarity forever.
Solidarity
forever. Solidarity forever. For the union make us strong. Solidarity. Thank you.
Please keep your union labor job because you don't have talent to become Davido. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.